Is your sales team chomping at the bit for more chat leads, or are they lukewarm on them? Get the scoop in this episode of Closing Time. Hi, I'm Chip House, CMO at Insightly. Welcome to Closing Time, the show for go-to-market leaders. I'm joined today by Katie Foote. She's the CMO of Drift, a fast-growing SaaS business in the conversation cloud space. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you, Chip. So excited to be here.
It's super great to have you. And Katie, we go back years and years. I know you've been doing SaaS for 15 plus years. We worked together at ExactTarget and at Salesforce years ago. And your career has really taken off. So tell me more about what's going on at Drift.
Yeah, it's an exciting time at Drift. We have been so fortunate to experience what we call hypergrowth within our business. The business was started back in 2016, and under this whole premise, which to me is just very inspirational, that B2B shopping experiences really missed the mark when you compared them to B2C. And if you've ever heard our co-founders speak, they talk a lot about this concept of imagine yourself going into an Apple store or into one of your favorite brands, and there's no one in the store. You're ready to purchase something. There's no one there to help you. And there's a little Post-it note on the checkout counter that says, fill out this form. We'll get back to you in 48 hours or so. That doesn't make any sense. So why would that apply in the B2B space? And so that was the whole premise for Drift, was really putting the buyer and the buyer experience at the center of everything we do. And we've just evolved very quickly since then. We just recently launched back in March, what we call, and you introduced this just a moment ago, the Conversation Cloud, which is really us expanding beyond conversational marketing and just the live chat space into sales and service as well, because buyers like you and me, we really do expect that instant gratification, and we want one digital experience across every stage of the customer life cycle. So it's been very exciting to be a part of the company now for over a year. And it reminds me a lot of our time back in email marketing when it was kind of having its moment and growing very quickly. That's what I like in a lot of my experience in chat to be similar to.
Yeah, just like email was in its heydays, maybe 15, 20 years ago almost, right? It was really, really taking off. Now chat and the conversational marketing is really catching its stride.
Right.
So it's when you think about what your service does at Drift, Katie,
Yep.
and you're working closely with people who are building websites, with marketers, with salespeople, you're really kind of touching the top of the funnel or kind of middle of the funnel, I guess,
Yep.
for, once leads start engaging with a brand.
That's right.
So how can sales teams do a better job than they are today, potentially, at picking up those leads and making the most of them?
Well, I think, and this is true for any marketing tactic, having that alignment with sales and an understanding for who are we targeting, what messages do we want to deliver, what tactics do we think are appropriate, so that when marketing winds up and throws the pitch, sales is there to catch the ball, is really important. So I think that's just foundational. Now, if we talk specifically about live chat, for instance, on a website, you run a particular ABM program, you want to drive inbound visitors to your site, you need to make sure that sales is aligned to pick up that conversation. And the way we think about chat is not just a fancy form. It's very much that, a live conversation. And speed really matters. So when a chat comes inbound, whether it's an SDR that's working that or an AE that's working an open opportunity, we want them to be well educated, well versed in why that lead might be coming inbound. That's a person. And we want them to be able to have a really positive conversation within 5 seconds or less, because that timeliness really does matter.
Yeah. So give me those stats again. How fast is ideal?
5 seconds or less is ideal to launch into a chat. And we have very robust, obviously we use our own product within our own marketing and sales motion. We have very robust SLAs and expectations. And, again, if you keep this whole premise of meeting the buyer where they're at, if we think about our own experiences, if someone's coming to a website, they have high intent. They're there for a reason. And if they initiate a chat conversation, we need to be there to engage right away.
Yeah, I may have misspoke when I was talking earlier. I said higher funnel or middle funnel, but when somebody is at a website, they're already there. Potentially, they've clicked on some sort of ad to get there, right? Or they've come in organically through some sort of search. Is the point of conversational marketing to actually proactively engage them, or do you want them to navigate your site as they will?
We really want, I mean, the strategy is different depending on who you're targeting and what you're trying to accomplish, but we want them to feel empowered and be in the driver's seat. And if they are ready to engage with us, we want to be right there. So, if they go to our pricing page and they have questions about pricing, we want to be able to answer right away. If we've developed a robust account based marketing strategy where, let's say, we've sent a direct mail to a high intent prospect that asks them to come to our website, we even build like very specific targeted ABM playbooks on our site with specific calls to action. So it really kind of depends what your marketing strategy is in your use case. And they range all the way from kind of engage all on your top traffic pages to very bespoke, customized ABM playbooks. There's a wide range of options as a marketer.
So you might have an account-based marketing campaign where you have a very well-defined set a list of accounts,
Mhm.
potentially with intent, right? Or at least it's your target list that you've coordinated with your sales team.
Yep.
And you're building a specific campaign with a customized messaging, customized landing page, customized conversational chat marketing flow, right?
Absolutely. And that's kind of step one of the journey. Step two is when the SDR or the AE then engages in conversation. And again, that we always have this premise of wanting to deliver the next best action to deepen that engagement with a prospect or even a customer.
So to say more about that next best action.
Yeah, I mean, you have to really gauge what is it the prospect or the buyer is asking for. Are they wanting just some high level information? Maybe they're just wanting to read some more about thought leadership. Maybe they want to talk immediately to a sales rep about pricing. So we use our patented AI as well as making sure that our sales organization is properly enabled to listen to what the buyer is asking for and then respond appropriately with the next best action.
Makes sense. Yeah, and by doing that well, you're actually making the AI seem more human, right? And more sort of respectful of the human.
Yes, absolutely. And we believe that through that machine learning, um, engaging in that human experience and that personalization is critical. AI is never going to fully replace that human connection, but we believe that having that type of initial experience on the site, um, when you are routed to a human for a live conversation, it just makes it feel more connected throughout the entire process.
So, what kind of questions do you generally see work the best, Katie, for the initial chatbot engagement on a website?
It kind of depends. I think one of the most important things is that you are true to your brand and your chatbot is kind of you know, taking on the voice of who you are. At Drift, we're approachable, we're conversational. We'll ask, how are you today? Is there anything we can help you with? We try to infuse personality in our chats initially. And it does again depend on kind of which page that chat is living on. It's much more generic on what we call an engage all playbook. So one of your more trafficked pages could be just trying to engage anyone who comes to the site for a variety of different reasons. If you're coming from a specific ABM campaign, it's obviously going to be much more targeted. We have a great ebook that just launched about a month ago called Really Good Chatbots. It's written by one of our former CSMs, and there's a bunch of great hooks and great ideas when you're building out your chat playbook strategy. So I would encourage folks to go to our website and check out that ebook because I believe it has more than 50 different hooks that you could choose from depending on where you are in maturity.
So that is super helpful, Katie. So let's take the next step. So once the engagement happens, right, and a visitor, a potential buyer is engaging with your chatbot, what's the best practice for routing those leads to your sales team, your SDR team, or your CS team, depending on, whatever the customer is looking for?
So when we're advising a customer on how to do that, when you're implementing Drift, we typically want to understand what are your goals as an organization. Do you have a speed to lead methodology where you want to get to that conversation as quickly as possible? And that's actually our approach. We really want to honor that 5 seconds or less. Let's make sure we get in front of the prospect. We have a round robin routing system, so whoever is available within that 5 seconds or less will jump into the conversation and chat with that customer. If you were an organization that has much stricter engagement rules where you only want that account to go to a particular AE, for example, or a particular SDR, we typically would run that through a CRM system based on how we lead score. So there's a couple different ways that you can set that up. And again, it's up to the organization with whom we're working, and we just want to ask questions and understand what their strategic goals are.
So, when you see organizations put these in place, by the way, because we just updated our Drift chatbot on our website, and yeah, we're happy with the results we've seen thus far. It's always been a productive lead source for us. But what do you see are some of the biggest challenges that organizations have, and maybe what the biggest mistakes are that you see made?
We kind of need to get into the tactical details on what types of accounts are we targeting? Who do we want to actually drive to our site? Which pages do we want to drive them to? What types of conversations do we want to have? So that when an individual comes inbound and is engaging in those chats, AEs trust the credibility of that lead source and they want to engage really quickly. If they feel like we don't really want to work this because it's not fruitful for us, it's not going to be successful. You also have to make sure that the financial incentives are in place for sales to want to respond to that SLA in 5 seconds or less. I think that's always a consideration when you're developing your workflows for both your SDR and your AE organizations. I think other big mistakes is you can't really just set it and forget it, right? I mean, we think back to email marketing and the importance of personalization, and 15 years ago, when email marketing was in its heyday, it could change people's careers. A lot of times that role of an email marketer, like it would land in your lap and you're like, I don't know anything about this. So you learn about it, you take it on as a plus one to your existing day job. I think you have to have someone passionate about conversation cloud, conversational sales, marketing, and service in your organization. Even if it's just a plus one part of their job, they're thinking about it, they have a set strategy. If you just have 5 playbooks running on your site that are very universal and not personalized, you're not necessarily going to see as much lift as if you have a mix of both more generic as well as more personalized approaches.
So you talked about speed, you talked about personalization, Katie. What else, what kind of final thoughts would you have for salespeople or the SDR frontline people that are out there trying to engage with chatbot leads?
I think just remembering that while yes, we're selling software to make, human connections more powerful, it's all about that connection and to treat every conversation in a relational way, in an empathetic way, in a human-based way. Again, it's not a fancy form that we're asking and peppering a bunch of questions to a prospect or a customer. It's truly about that human connection. We have a tagline at Drift of, every relationship starts with a conversation. And that's the power of what we provide, is facilitating that human connection. And if we think about how isolated we were during the pandemic, how many of us work remotely now, technology still holds the power to connect us. And so I would leave everyone with that inspirational thought.
So Katie, I love that. Every relationship begins with a conversation. Well, that's a great way to leave us all. And thanks again for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Make sure all of you at home click the subscribe button and tick the bell so you don't miss any episodes. And we'll see you next time.